wider than it was when they last raced here in Formula 1. New look to the bus stop. It's no longer a bus stop shaped in and out and in. It's just a straightforward right-left chicane, and a new look to the first corner as they head down towards La Source. Much more open and inviting, and hopefully much more survivable for a field of pumped-up race cars as well from a standing start. And the other unusual thing, Gareth, is that there's long shots. I mean, the shot with a helicopter, for a start, the helicopter was flying. There's a long shot of bright sunshine. The traditionally wet and changeable Ardennes forest weather seems to be set fair for this afternoon. It's warm, it's dry, it's perfect. It's
a thoroughly pleasant day. There's no nasty gusts of wind, so going through Eau Rouge, the car should be nice and stable, provided it's set up properly. So it's a perfect day to go racing. But the new chicane, as you were referring to then, done a very nice job, actually. I mean, there has to be a chicane of some kind in there, otherwise the cars would arrive at the hairpin just stupidly fast. So there has to be something there. And the bus stop never really felt like it fitted in with Spa. Spa is such a lovely flowing place, you know, and the bus stop was a rock ape over the curbs, and it spoilt what was a great lap. And I think what they've done now is done a nice job of it's first gear in a GP2 car, so it's still very sort of stop-start, but they've made the best of a difficult job, I think.
Not dissimilar to the first chicane at Monza, really, is it? Where it's a sharp right-hander and a couple of car lengths and a sharp left. So it should provide, probably not for the Formula 1 cars, but for these guys, some interesting overtaking opportunities. As they get ready to go then, there is our pole sitter. Nicolas Lapierre will lead them around on the formation lap. And Gareth, I don't think there can be many drivers that have been to Spa who come away hating it as a driver's circuit. Maybe they hate the weather occasionally if they've been unlucky enough, but for the rookies and for the experienced drivers here, I think everybody arrives here expecting to have just a blast, because it's such a challenging, such a unique circuit.
It is, and it's got a couple of corners on that really do require you to be brave. I mean, the obvious one is Eau Rouge, really a very difficult corner. We were talking before we went on air, and apparently, according to the GP2 technical boys, the only driver to go flat through there in qualifying was Philippi. And to be fair to Philippi, I think he probably would have got pole, but for his last lap on new tyres being ruined when Niemöller wandered into his path. So Eau Rouge is one, and Philippi was flat through there. The other one is Blanchimont as you come back down on the approach to the last chicane. And again, that is super quick in one of these cars, and it takes a big deep breath to go and do it flat.
You're absolutely right. And in fact, actually, in the Formula 1 press conference, Fernando Alonso was saying that Eau Rouge isn't the challenge that it used to be in the dark old days. It's much wider now, much more runoff area. They haven't got the gravel traps there. Still can be the scene of some fairly major accidents. I mean, some very big accidents there. Fortunately, nothing really serious in terms of driver injury in the last few years. But with the speed they carry, if you do get it wrong, it goes very wrong very quickly.
Yeah, an F1 car's got so much grip, isn't it? That's a big advantage.
Well,
these things are obviously carrying a lot less downforce than an F1 car, and therefore it's just that little bit more tippy-toey. Yeah. And fair play to Philippi for getting it flat. That's pretty impressive.
Absolutely. However, if he got his line a little bit better,
yes,
might not have been able to be flat, because the quickest man in qualifying was not necessarily flat through Eau Rouge. Well, there at the top of the hill, look, you can see over the valleys, the folds of these Ardennes forest area, not far from the Nürburgring, and so very similar in context to the old Nordschleife, Südschleife Nürburgring complex. They're rolling downhill now from Rivage, that sort of long 180-degree right-hander, down through Pouhon, which used to have massive gravel traps on the outside. Now it's a big tarmac runoff area, which means it's survivable, and in fact not necessarily any slower than staying on the grey bits. Down towards what the drivers and the teams of the old geezers, maybe used a different word, like us refer to as Piff Paff, but which is technically called Fagnes, after the nearest village to it, and still coming downhill again towards the lowest point of the circuit, apart from Eau Rouge, which is Stavelot again, a corner named after a nearby village in the forest. And from Stavelot they begin the long climb all the way back up. In fact, I was watching the Formula 1 qualifying, and we had an onboard with one of the Ferraris. I was just wondering, out of Eau Rouge up to the braking area at Les Combes, is that the longest full throttle straight in Formula 1, or is this... It's got to be longer than the straight at Monza, hasn't it? Even though it's not all straight.
Now
it's uphill and it's all just...
Yeah. Now that Hockenheimer's gone, it is. Yeah, I think it's a long. I mean, it's really hard on the engine because it's sat on full throttle for so long. Yeah.
But out of Stavelo as well, that's the first of two right-handers. Out of the second right, all the way up here, so you see the grazes there where the cars are bottoming all the way over the undulations on the track. This is all absolutely foot to the boards as well, up through the gears, but it's just wailing the engine twice on a lap from the lowest point right up to the highest point, and it's a very, very quick circuit.
It is. It makes the car hard to set up because it's not like Monza where really you just forget everything but straight line speed. You put minimum downforce on. You can't do that here because of Eau Rouge, because of Blanchimont, because of that middle section through Pouhon and Fagnes. You need some downforce, so you're kind of playing with two different types of setup. You've got two very, very long flat out sections, and you've got two sections that are very, very needing of downforce.
Well, you can see the cars here with the upper element of the wing, which was very evidently not there at Monza, where it was just for balance, really, for to stop the car wobbling too much or lifting at the back.
To fulfill the regulations, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So cars on the grid then. We're getting ready to get underway here at Spa. Ready for the start of race 10 in the GP2 series for 2007. We're at the penultimate race weekend of the championship at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. And Nicolas Lapierre and Luca Filippi ready to lead us away for the feature race, the longer of the two events. 5 red lights we're waiting for, and then, it's a long hold, away they go. Good start from the front row, and an electrifying start from Adam Carroll. We'll see him fourth, yes, comfortably into the first corner, round the outside. Filippi goes round Lapierre. Lapierre also jumped by, well, Senna didn't get away at all well, but down the hill, Lapierre battling for the lead. He's going to have to try and come back from this, and he's not going to there. I beg your pardon, Di Grassi in second place, so Lapierre heading up the hill with Lucas Di Grassi. And Gareth again flat out here. Now Di Grassi is going to try and use the toe to get alongside under braking, but I'm not sure he's got the overlap he needs.
That was not close enough. Great start from Lapierre. Filippi made an absolute pig's ear at the first corner, didn't he? Ran so very wide and lost a place.
Adam Carroll third as they got to Les Combes. So Carroll from umpteenth on the grid, 7th on the grid. That's a great start, and 1, 2, 3 cars stranded.
It's Nakajima and
Andy Zuber. So Zuber, the second of the iSport cars, didn't see who was being pushed through the barriers. Petrov, perhaps, was that Campos colours? Whatever. It's Lapierre that leads. Now, I don't know where Senna got to either. He was a lot. That was Senna. Was Senna being pushed away? Yes, maybe he was. Timo Glock's in the pits. Now that's where he's starting his race. That's both iSport cars, including our championship leader. Well, that's one of the reasons why Adam Carroll is third now. But for Timo Glock, you're right. I think the D word is entirely applicable. So that makes 4.3 miles. So that makes it a slightly shorter race in terms of distance. But great work by the marshals. They're over the start-finish line now, Gareth, and the grid is clear, and everybody's either in the pit lane or already on their way around to try and catch up.
Yeah, I mean, there was no obvious gaps on the grid from what we could see, were there? So I can only assume that Glock got wheeled through the pit wall, as you said.
Quick dive down the inside from Riccardo Rizzati, and that worked out for him quite nicely. Picked up the place there from Borja Garcia. Oh, look at that, under the bridge. We didn't see that from that view. Bruno Senna waving like a madman, and right behind him, Andy Zuber. And that's why Adam Carroll popped out so quickly, and obviously. So I don't know whether Zuber stalled as well, or whether because Senna was right in front of him, he just didn't move, hoping that the start would be waved off.
Both iSport cars sat there, look.
And look at that, side by side, 3 cars in 4 grid spots.
Everyone did very well to miss them, didn't they?
Nakajima Glock gets going there, but look, he's holding his hands. He almost wants to hold them over his head, doesn't he?
Sitting target, yeah, absolutely.
First corner there, Di Grassi did well to survive as well, didn't he? Ooh. Flat spot
it's
on
a big
lap
flat
1.
spot, isn't it, on Philippi's front right?
A little one that you could see, and the monster one that was being created. So first corner, and he's already trashed the right front tyre.
Yeah, that'll be the early pit stop for Filippi, I think.
Soucek set the fastest lap of the race already. We'll have to wait and see who goes in. At the end of this one, the pit lane should be open. And who's that? Who have we lost? That is a Campos car. It's Pantano.
Yeah.
Pantano won here in Formula 3000. And what did I read? His next points that he scores will be his 250th in the category, or 350th, or 450th or something. But yes, it's not going to be today, and it ain't going to be tomorrow either. So that will have to carry on to the season finale in Valencia, see if he can outscore everybody on the planet. Big lead for Lapierre. De Grassi in second place was 0.8 behind him. Everybody's still running very close together. What are we seeing here? Pantano getting it wrong or pulling off? No, he must be pulling off. Ruben, up and down the gears, trying to make something work.
Yeah, transmission issue of some kind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Out-qualified for the first time by his teammate this week.
Here's the red car coming down the hill towards us now. And just in front, Sandy Negrão, Javi Villa. Several enterprising battles going on here. Vitaly Petrov, Sandy Negrão, Javi Villa, Ho Pin Tung, Sebastian Buemi, Mike Conway on the back in the Supernova car. Then a tiny little breathing space to Suchek and Zaug. So this is effectively the battle for 5th place. Vitaly Petrov in 5th with Sandy Negrão all over the back of him in the green and yellow Piquet Minardi sport car. Then the dark blue of Javi Villa, Ho Pin Tung all in red. And reading in the press during the week the thoughts of some of the organisers of the series, as we're with Timo Glock half a lap behind Gareth. Well, the team are going to be really sensational if he and they can somehow get him into the well, and Andy Zuber as well, of course, because he's pretty much in the same position, into the points from that sort of position. It's a very long lap here, but it does mean that there's still an awful lot of catching up to do.
He's 76 seconds behind. He's 22nd place at the moment, Glock, so...
Ho Pin Tung dives to the inside.
See the new pit lane entrance off the chicane there.
Yeah. Oh, and somebody's gone in, so we have our first pit caller. And not exactly sure who that was.
Mike Conway. Is it Mike Conway?
Yeah, looks like you're right, actually. Off the back of that queue, there you go. And he was on the back of that queue, so good identification and good thinking as to why he would be going in there. So Conway is in. Riccardo Rizzati was the other car down pit road. Here's our race leader, Nicolas Lapierre. De Grassi giving chase.
Interesting, his teammate Nakajima just ahead of him, almost a lap down, so... Confusing
me entirely.
Will he get out De Grassi's way?
Javi Villa there, battling and succeeding in getting by Vitaly Petrov for 5th place. There is one of the DPR cars, that's Andy Suchek. Suchek was battling with Adrian Zaug. Zaug got by him, and he's now got Karen Chanduk right behind. The Indian driver seeming to have a bit of a suddenly get to grips moment with the car 3 weekends ago. Oh, look at that, around the outside. No shortage of bravery. Good move.
Excellent move, yeah. Really good move.
Very enterprising.
He's been driving very well lately, actually. Negrão, he's been doing very, very well. Last 3 races, he's qualified far higher than we're normally used to seeing him.
Well, again, really got to grips with that. And that seems to suggest to me that Sebastian Buemi is struggling a little bit, the 18-year-old youngest driver in the field. But he's the cork in the bottle at the moment. Ho Pin Tung right behind him, then Javi Villa, then Andy Suchek, then Karen Chanduk, and the rest of them catching up. Christian Backerud, who returns with DPR. I'm not entirely convinced yet from what I've read that his back is entirely as good as it needs to be, but he's back in the car anyway.
Well, I know Glock wasn't all that pleased to see him back because he got in Glock's way during qualifying yesterday and probably cost Glock a front row place. I think a true front row is Philippe and Glock, to be fair, on pace. But both of them had a problem with traffic. And Senna was very quick in qualifying too, but blew it. Rizzati in a moment there.
Well, now he's just come out of the pits, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And the car was wobbling under braking.
In fact, the left rear is not fitted.
Not that cold, just not
on properly
at all.
Wow.
Well, yeah, sooner at Les Combes than in Eau Rouge.
Yeah, indeed.
In comes Andy Suchek, 2005 Spanish Formula 3 champion. And you can see a lot of teams ready for their men to come in, all using the Formula 1 pit lane, the new wide extended pit lane. Well, Adam Carroll right there. Let's hope he has a slightly better pit stop than last weekend.
Yeah, that ruined Adam's race.
But it got
going very
32
well.
seconds. The team reckon it cost him
Yeah.
just the pit stop. Oh, Chandok dive bombing down the inside, nearly taking 2. Oops. And that didn't go too well, did it? Roldan Rodriguez tapping Christian Backerud. That would have helped. Good move by Karen Chandok, though. Not... Roldan Rodriguez seeing the gap and liking the idea, but not quite being able to execute it in the same manner.
That's a good move. You've got to judge it very, very finely there. I mean, they're now arriving at a very, very quick pace into that chicane there, so you've got to get it just right. Chandok did. Rodriguez failed miserably.
And no longer doing that sort of braking as you're turning thing that you used to have to do for the old bus
That's
stop,
right.
and for the last rubbish sequence of corners that they put in there.
Yeah.
Now you actually get to brake into a corner, which is...
Yeah, it made overtaking into the bus stop very difficult, actually, because you were braking round. It's going to fall off any moment, I think.
Well, he's in the pit road, so well done. Full marks to Riccardo Rosati for somehow getting round Spa and keeping the wheel attached until he could afford to shed it. However, possibly hasn't helped his race that much. Lapierre still leads by nothing from Di Grassi. There's the Trident team. And Rosati here, of course, in place of Pastor Maldonado, whose collarbone is still not up to it. More pit callers. Still our lead group stay out. We're Sandy Negral in the middle of this little battle. That's Vitaly Petrov, 6th place, Sandy Negral 7th. Negral right with him, Gareth, and perfectly placed as they look, dragging their backsides all the way through there under the grinding pressure of going through Eau Rouge.
That's right, you see the floor getting battered as they go through. It's just bits flying off of it.
Like the Formula 1 cars with a wooden plank underneath, and that's where the smoke's coming from, is the wood being burned off by the tarmac.
You can smell it. If you stand by the side of the track, actually smell the burning wood.
And the waffles and the frites and mayonnaise. You know, never mind the smell of Castrol R at Spa. There's an entirely different racing atmosphere, which is just gorgeous. Now, interestingly, you mentioned a couple of moments ago that Lapierre's teammate was in front of him on the road. Have you noticed that we can't see him anymore? He's absolutely left the leader for dead.
He's the only man in the 59s.
Yeah, just crucifying them on pace, which is really interesting.
Yeah, you won't get any points from there, Mike.
No. Well, although there's fastest lap points possibly.
Yeah, other than that.
Hang on, did he?
Points,
did he start? Did his car start, or did he have to start from the pit lane?
He started from the pit lane.
No, but he was on the grid, wasn't he?
He was. He got wheeled in, so technically, he started from the pits. Yeah.
Ooh.
We'll have a change of shot, shall we?
Yeah, that's it. Oh, should we see how long it takes the director to notice? That was a big bit of the local fauna, wasn't it? Some poor little insect gave its life there. Hello, wake up, there's cars coming down the pit road, including Andy Zuber. Drive-through penalty. Well, what'll that be for speeding out of the pit lane when he was leaving the track, I would imagine.
Most likely, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's only down in 22nd place, just behind his teammate in 21st. So
well, he and Block have one chance of a point, don't they? And that is chasing fastest lap.
Yep.
And then the argument about whether you can get it if you're pushed off the grid because your car didn't start or stalled or something, or, you know, that goes on and on and on, doesn't it? Meanwhile, into the pits comes Sebastian Buemi. Now, he was dropping down the order. As he came across the line, he was already out of the top 10. So Ho Pin Tung is in 7th place with Karen Chunduk right behind him. And Chunduk, always an enterprising racer in Formula 3. I think it's just taken him a little while longer than he really would have wanted to really get his teeth into these cars, really get his head around them.
Yeah, I think he scored points. He didn't score points for the first 2/3 of the season. He scored points the last 2 or 3 times out.
Yeah, last 3 races he's seen in the points.
Yeah, he's starting to get a handle on it, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Lucas Di Grassi in 2nd place, constantly shown as half a second, but visibly a lot more than that, really.
It's a kind of classic Di Grassi performance so far, isn't it? Just shadowing the guy in front, never really threatening.
Well, you could equally say that about Lapierre, actually. Always right there, but actually never alongside.
Yeah, different when you're leading the race. I mean, he kind of, at least he's at the front. I mean, Di Grassi is always there or thereabouts, you know. You just never really see him get hold of by the scruff of the neck and go for it.
Yes, no, he's never dominated, has he? He's been reliable. He's been on the podium more times pretty much than anybody else in the series, but in the points rather, but on the podium 5 times. That's not really what you want from your champion, is it? You want a bit of race-winning daring do and getting up and pushing the opposition out the way. Out of the new revised, well, we still call it bus stop, I suppose, even though it doesn't even remotely resemble a bus stop. But that's where it is, that's what it's called. And now
a bit quicker there, isn't it, Di Grassi?
Di Grassi down the inside, spurred by our lamenting of his lap of overtaking
Nicholas,
ability.
For goodness sake.
Okay, here we go, wheel to wheel.
Oh, he stuck his nose in and scared him, said boo. He just gave him way too much room. And that was classic Lapierre.
It was a little bit, wasn't it? It was a little bit. And Di Grassi, unfortunately, only just getting enough of a toe up the hill to close at the end of the Kemmel Straight and into the braking area for Les Combes. So...
yeah, I think Lapierre's obviously made a mistake somewhere, isn't he? Because he did have a pretty comfortable second lead over Di Grassi. And suddenly into the chicane, it was nothing.
Well, and again, it's nothing here now. So Di Grassi working very well at the top of the hill. Working very well under braking compared to Lapierre as well. So Lapierre needs to roll up his sleeping bag and actually get on with doing some racing now.
So Adam Carroll in third has actually pitted. Don't know why, because he had a pretty clear run, so perhaps he wasn't happy with the balance, but he's come in now, so he'll probably come out. A bit of traffic, I'd have thought.
Because the leaders are in, that means top 3 are in, so Javi Villa leads the race now, or Wilder, there he goes, across the line.
I think Di Grassi could have been thinking on his feet there. He could have actually thought, well, actually, I won't go in, I'll stay out. I'll get a couple of laps in clear air. I think he looked a bit quicker than that.
Well, yes, exactly, and that's not a drama. If you go straight by the pits and the team are there, that's not a drama.
In Formula 1 it's different because you are on a rigid fuel strategy, so if you try and go another lap, chances are you're not got enough fuel for it. In GP2 it doesn't matter, you don't refuel, you run full fuel load from the start of the race. So it's just the tyres you're concerned about. You can afford to do a couple more laps.
Oh, and they're going to come out behind the DPR car. Yes, they are as well, behind Christian Bakkerud. So that is going to give the chaser a little bit of a chance. Lucas Di Grassi will be close enough behind Nicolas Lapierre to, if he's very savvy, jump him right at the start. Or right at the start of their next sector, their next sequence.
On board with Philip here, I think,
Yeah, look at the toe, he's getting up the hill. Oh, up the inside. And is that Di Grassi? It is.
It is, you're right. Absolutely.
He's gone by Di Grassi, and that's the difference between having cold tyres out of the pits and having up-to-speed tyres.
Yeah, well, we know Philippe is very good through Eau Rouge, and now, as you said, he's on warmer tyres.
Well, Di Grassi doing everything he can to negate his chance here with Timo Glock not getting away from the grid cleanly. Di Grassi's doing everything he can to lose places. Well, not make them up anyway. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Look, here's another one. That was Adam Carroll.
Carroll, isn't it? Yeah.
So Di Grassi has now lost 2 real places because those are both drivers who have stopped, Gareth. So Di Grassi now effectively has gone from 2nd down to 4th.
That really puzzles me because Carroll wasn't that close to Di Grassi. When Adam made his pit stop, he wasn't right with Di Grassi. He was a few seconds back down the road. Di Grassi's come and done the pit stop, and he's dropped behind Carroll.
Tells you what you need to know about why Adam Carroll went in early. Suggests to me exactly what you said, that the first set of tyres were undrivable in terms of where he wanted to be on pace, and the second set are electrifying in comparison.
Yep, and also clearly Di Grassi isn't getting the best out of the cold tyres, is he? He's taken a little while to get into that.
Okay, in comes Javi Villa. So he was the man who was in the lead of the race, which is now handed over to Ho Pin Tung. So Tung, a rookie here, I think, isn't he? Leading from Marcos Martinez. So don't expect that to end that way. Adam Carroll, was it, did I read correctly that he got the full Monty from his last race here? Pole position, fastest lap, led most laps, and victory, because the race was stopped, wasn't it, before mid-distance?
That's right.
So they only got half points for it. He still got everything that there was going.
Just because of that huge shunt, wasn't it?
That's right,
on top of Eau Rouge in the wet.
Absolutely. Well, very different weather. And is that Carroll again? I think so. Well, he's moved up past Bakkerud, and then Bakkerud has not stopped yet either, has he? So
no.
This is the lead group moving already past cars that have not stopped. So that tells you again that Bakkerud is not at 100%. The Dane really must be struggling a lot here. Timo Glock down pit road. Marcus Niemöller is also in the pits.
Yeah, frustration for the Ice Sport boys too, because they were actually even closer than Glock is to winning the championship for the for teams, not constructors. I think they've got to score 3 more points than ART this weekend, and they were going to take the championship. So got to wait another week, boys.
It's been a long walk back, hasn't it, for Giorgio Pantano? Oh dear. It's always a bit of a sad sight, isn't it? A driver just trudging forlornly up the road. Here's Conway. Oh, good stuff. What is going on with Di Grassi? It's just an open door on the back of his car, isn't it? Please come through.
Yeah, he's clearly got a problem of some kind. I mean, we saw him struggle with the clutch at Monza, which cost him seriously important points.
Well, now, actually, that was earlier on, and this is the end of the lap, and Di Grassi has stayed in front of Conway, and Bakkerud gets out the way. Yeah, well...
Almost took Di Grassi with him, didn't he? Di Grassi was a bit distracted by that.
Could clearly see what was going on behind him and just drove off the road so that he could then go into the pit lane without holding up the battle, clearly realising who was behind him. But interesting again that although the others have gone by, Adam Carroll there and the rest, Di Grassi couldn't pass Bakkerud.
No.
So there's, if Carroll's first set of tyres weren't up to snuff, then I'm assuming that Di Grassi's aren't in his second set. It just sits there, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's just that slight incline. He just, just gets to the limit and just sits there. Just revving away.
No substitute for power up the Kemmel Straight, that's for sure. That really shows which engines are making the horsepower and which aren't. Of course, all these are, well, should be making exactly the same amount of power. Right. Here is the battle between those who have stopped here at Spa with 16 laps still to go, 10 completed. They're just about to complete lap 11. Leader Marco Martinez from Borja Garcia with Roldan Rodriguez in third, Nicola Lapierre in fourth, ahead of Luca Filippi and Adam Carroll. Then Mike Conway with Javi Villa being the next. So Mike Conway there is the black and yellow, having a little bit of a wobble through Eau Rouge. And who's right behind him? Is that Nakajima who's a lap behind?
I think it is, yes.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
And in fact, Nakajima hasn't stopped. Still a very long walk back as far. You could have done an entire lap of pretty much anywhere else in the time it takes to walk back from the Kemmel Straight at Spa. In fact, he's gone all the way around the lap, hasn't he? Because he pulled off from Eau Rouge on the way up towards Les Combes. The quicker way would have been to walk back down Eau Rouge and into the bottom of the paddock, but he's obviously had a nice walk in the sunshine. Looking back from Adam Carroll. And right behind is, well, should be Lucas Di Grassi, but Di Grassi is dropping away, isn't he? Oh, no, we're not looking back from Mike Conway, I'm sorry. Head in the clouds, so looking back from Conway then.
Actually, I think we're looking back from Philippi at Carroll, aren't we?
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh, right, yes. Sounds a little bit more sensible. Yes, that's right.
Well, yeah, Philippi's in fourth place and Carroll's in fifth, although the front two have yet to stop for their tyres, Martinez and Garcia. So really, our genuine top three is probably Lapierre, Filippi, Carroll, Di Grassi is the order.
Yeah. Now, what about Filippi? How much is he going to close on Di Grassi? Not very much to make enough of a difference, is he?
He's certainly, that's his target. I know from what I understand, and I know he was absolutely gutted to miss out on pole yesterday. I mean, really, it should have been his, but for Bakkerud getting in his way, he would have taken pole. Cost him 2 points in the chase for Di Grassi, so he was really annoyed by that. But if Di Grassi keeps going backwards the rate he has been, then it could be an awful lot closer by the end of the day.
Marco Martinez in from what was second place. Borja Garcia still leading, and he may as well do, actually, because he's going to have to bite the bullet at some stage, so he may as well keep going as quickly as he can. If he's happy with the balance of the car, Gareth, then there seems no real pressing need. There he is, car 26 to be going in, but he is lapping 2 seconds slower. In fact, 2.5 seconds slower than leader, but then he was right at the back anyway. I mean, he was 23rd. He has not got it. Now, you see, overtaking working group in Formula 1, that's what you want. You want cars that slide.
Did he get away with it?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, no.
No, he didn't. Taking his front right.
Wall came in just a little quicker than he needed to do, unfortunately. We'll be going back to Macau for the Formula 3 race weekend this year to try and emulate Uncle Ayrton, who raced there his last ever race before going into Formula 1.
Speaking of which, it was a good stat from Sean, our stat man, regarding Uncle Ayrton. When the first time he came here in '85 in the Lotus 97T, which was a turbo car with soft quality tyres on, his average speed was only 1 mile an hour faster than Bruno managed yesterday in qualifying. So it just goes to show how much these GP2 cars have, how much technology in general in motorsport has moved on.
That's staggering, isn't it, actually? Incredible. When you think of the horsepower, 1,000 horsepower and Gumbel one-shot tyres and Ayrton Senna as well.
Yeah.
It is staggering to think, well, go in, there's no point in staying out now, they've caught you and passed you. So Lapierre goes by, takes the real lead. Luca Filippi in the dark car, third in this queue, is really second, or going to be really second any minute. Adam Carroll really will be third. In fact, last weekend in Donington Park, a pair of 97Ts were there. One of them, which was being demonstrated at the World Series by Renault race weekend, was the actual chassis that won the Portuguese Grand Prix in sister car from the same season, and that in fact was driven by ex-Lotus Formula 1 driver Martin Donnelly, who's involved with the Comtech team. So the first time he's been in a Lotus Formula 1 car since one nearly killed him back in Jerez a long time ago. Well, there was the pass for the lead by Nicolas Lapierre, made it all look very straightforward, but when he's catching Borja Garcia at 2.5 seconds a lap, then clearly it's going to be pretty straightforward, isn't it? Yeah,
you could see the biggest speed differential to note was the difference between Garcia and Filippi from the overhead shot going through Eau Rouge. Filippi just gobbled him up so much quicker through Eau Rouge than Garcia.
Which is interesting because the Durango cars several weekends this year have been really quite on the pace. They've been looking a lot more competitive than they have in previous seasons.
But they need to, don't they? I mean, as he was noted in the press this week, the GP2 series are reviewing which teams to keep on for next year and which to replace. And those to be replaced will be the ones at the back. So BCN, DPR, Durango have all got to be looking over their shoulders for some quick boys coming in from Formula 3 or World Series. Yeah, well, we've got 13 teams at the moment, and it looks like at least that many want to join in as well. Yep. So, yeah, there are a few teams who we may well not be seeing next year. Minor place battles coming towards the line. We've just seen Sandy Negrão go through ahead of Andy Suchek. This is Vitaly Petrov. Right behind him, number 1, Sebastian Buemi. Karen Chunduk diving to the inside. No.
Well, it's very, very wide there, as you can see. But, of course, both of them wanted the narrow line. So Buemi shutting the door just a little late, perhaps. That was survivable, I think. And that's perhaps a little bit of inexperience.
Yeah, I think Chunduk was a bit optimistic there. Ironically, it should happen to him, or it's what Nakajima did to him back in Istanbul, isn't it? Stuck his nose up the inside and took Chunduk off.
And that means Ho Pin Tung's got a good run on the Indian driver, but can't capitalise. Something flew off Chanduk's car. I wasn't sure whether he was taking off a tear-off or whether it was a little bit of end plate or something that flew off, but can't see any damage there. And he may well be up in front of the stewards after the race. It was a little bit ambitious, but I think actually entirely survivable, because Buemi could simply have just gone a little wider around the corner and had got a better drive. Here he comes, he's down the inside.
Comes very late, doesn't he, actually?
Very late, yeah. And he was right by Buemi's rear wheel, and maybe if he'd been a little more alongside, Buemi would have been able to give him racing room. I think that Buemi had no idea he was... No, he had no idea he was coming at all, did he? That was too little too late by Chunduk. And so Sebastian Buemi loses 2 places.
It's funny, isn't it? Buemi hasn't really done a great deal since he's been in that car. I mean, he replaced Amamula, who was given the boot for only having middling results with a broken wrist. Which he's obviously still doing the F3 Euro Series, so he's racing in 2 different championships, which is difficult. but I would have thought he would have done more justification to the car than he's managed. I mean, Monaco, his first race in the car, he did brilliantly. Since then, it's been pretty normal, pretty average.
Yeah, I have to say, yes, the appearance at Monaco, the way that he dealt with the whole weekend first time in, really gave you the indication that he might be something quite special, but he hasn't been able to repeat that performance at all. In fact, I have to say, the World Series, Amon Muller is looking distinctly average at the moment as well. Obviously, it's a slightly different car to get used to and everything else, but that didn't stop Sebastian Vettel from winning both races on his first weekend in World Series, so I have to say that neither of them particularly look like the next logical Red Bull Formula 1 driver. You have to worry a little bit as well about Renault development driver in this series, because he's not looking like he's going to be snatching anybody's Renault Formula 1 drive away anytime soon either. They've already got Nelson Piquet in the wings, waiting to take over if the current Renault drivers blink. So there's a bit of a queue, a backlog forming in the Renault development programs. They can't get rid of the ones that are driving the cars at the moment, which means I'm not quite sure.
That is one of the shortcomings of being in motorsport, isn't it? It's not like football where there's plenty of opportunities in the first team to come up.
Yeah, development drivers need to keep their eye on the ball, definitely. But I'm not sure that Hirati's ready to step up. Not at the moment, that's for sure. Keep the Ulsterman behind him. Obviously, he won't be disappointed to be on the podium yet again, but I'm sure he'd prefer to be second rather than third rather. Then De Grassi. And it looks like he's sort of stopped the rot. Javi Veer is 3.3 seconds behind, so I think De Grassi has slumped as low as he's likely to.
Yeah, but on a day when his main championship rival is going to score, well, at most the point for fastest lap, he really needs to be sort of capitalising on that by getting a good points haul.
Yes, he's not doing enough to close the gap, is he? I mean, it would be enough if, well, no longer chased by Vitaly Petrov. That battle has all sort of faded away. Petrov's 5 seconds away, so he's not going to be moving into the top 8 through any of his own efforts. But Sandy Negrao 7th, Andy Suchek rather in 8th place. They look like they're going to be the front row men for tomorrow. And even talking about that at this stage lets you know that the drivers are probably getting a little bit more out of the race than the fans are at the moment. Marco Martinez back into the pits. He made his normal pit stop earlier. So this is obviously a bit of a problem for the racing engineering team.
Yeah, at the front, Carroll's starting to put a bit of a squeeze on Philippi, isn't he? Philippi's lost a bit of touch with Lapierre, almost 2 seconds behind Lapierre now. He's got his mirrors full of Carroll.
Well, I wish he would. I wish somebody would overtake somebody. This is a bit processional. I'm sorry, this is Spa. This is the world's greatest racing track, almost bar none. Come on, guys, race. I
think this is where it's going to happen, to be honest with you. Adam's looking pretty purposeful.
Yeah. But it's going to be another couple of laps, even at this rate of closing, before he gets close enough. And you're right, I mean, there's a very long straight there where you do get a tow, and that's really very beneficial to the chasing driver. When he's close enough as he is now, 0.8 behind, now if he's that sort of gap behind through Eau Rouge, then he really has got a fighting chance.
Yeah, it's kind of a poison chalice, that, really, isn't it? I mean, you don't really want to be following a car through Eau Rouge. It's just upsets the aerodynamic ability of the car to be following a car too closely.
There's Bruno walking back in. Meanwhile, Carroll is halfway up the Kemmel Straight. And not quite close enough. Is that staying out of the way? Nakajima again. Is Nakajima doing his traditional I'm just going for the fastest lap race weekend?
So. Often works.
Well, yeah, but dear oh dear, it's not much of a way to race a championship, is it? I'll just see if I can win it by getting fastest lap at every race. He needs a bit more luck on his side, I think, and Kazuki Nakajima running a lap behind, but obviously after the car didn't start properly for him. It does actually say he's out on our timing and scoring.
Yeah, I think that means you've come out the pits, doesn't it, rather than retired.
Right, okay, possibly, yeah. His dad, actually, having never seen Spa before, was 5th on his debut, which is quite interesting. There's a man who's been in the courts a lot recently for the prosecution, obviously, Jean Todt, with son Nicolas running the ART team. Marcos Martinez bails out. A cooling problem. That'll be a very long while since we've heard of one of those. I wonder whether he got something flicked into the radiator. Sorry, cooler. Apparently they're not radiators because they don't radiate. They're water coolers. You're not allowed to call them oil radiators either. They're oil coolers. Or intercoolers or some such. I was once told off, I can't remember exactly, so I'll continue calling them radiators. Probably so I get told off.
It's just easier.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Everybody knows what you mean. Cars have radiators. So, Lapierre 2.1 ahead of Filippi. Filippi 0.7 ahead of Carroll this lap. So it's just creeping down a little bit, 18 of 26 laps completed, but Adam Carroll doesn't look like he's near enough yet, or any nearer, does he? So
no, their lap times are very comparable. At that time round, Filippi was a tenth quicker than Carroll.
Sandy Negrão with Andy Suchek right behind him. No, he's not. That's confused me. That's not Sandy Negrão. That is Roldan Rodriguez with Jason Tahinchi right behind him. And behind Tahinchi is Borja Garcia. So this is the battle for 16th. Or at least there's something for the fans to get excited about. Quite busy grandstands as well. One of the problems when you're looking at Spa, of course, is that the lap is so long and there are so many places to watch from that grandstands don't tend to be wildly busy most of the time. When the Formula 1 cars come out, they'll be completely jammed, but you can see the hillsides there give you a fair indication of how many people. Did we not see a graphic saying that he had it?
The last graphic I saw on the screen was Glock had it.
Well, here's a slow-mo of Glock with brakes on fire at the bus stop. So that might be the end of here. They certainly looked like they were on fire. Maybe a bit of rubber burning off inside the rim, rather than just the carbon brake glow. Here he is, though. Fastest lap confirmation. Of course, his actual position in the race isn't entirely helping his championship challenge, but there you go.
No, but if you can pinch pole, fastest lap point, then that just limits the damage that is done.
No. Panic over. Yes.
Well, it was our leader then.
Just for a moment, I thought it was Lapierre as well. Probably explains why Nakajima is where he is. He's pulled off by the start-finish line. And at the top of the hill, Adam Carroll is now in the sort of shooting distance where he wants to be, and it looks to me as if he's actually got a much better car under him as the tyres wear than Luca Filippi. Now, if we'd been really, really good at our jobs, or had a lap chart in one or the other, we'd have noted which lap Filippi came in compared to which lap Adam Carroll came in. I think Luca came 2 or 3 laps. Couple of laps before Adam Carroll?
Yeah, I think he did.
But probably only that, because Adam was quite an early stopper, wasn't he? He came in after maybe 8 laps. Yeah. So he may have a sort of 2 or 3 lap window. And Filippi is just strong. Oh, no, he hasn't. As I was going to say, Filippi is just stretching his legs down the hill there, and Adam's taken the nose off, so that's that. De Grassi inherits 3rd place. As Adam Carroll finds it just getting away from him as they sweep down towards Pouhon.
Exactly the same thing happened in Monza. He just got away from him at the last turn. And same thing happened there. Lost it on his own.
Round it went. Tail end steps out. Well, he's using the curbs like everybody else. Maybe just a little high on too high on the apex,
wasn't it? Yeah.
And the rear wheel comes off the deck, and that's it.
Let's see for the next left-hander. There.
Yeah. Just too high. Just got to be breathing across the paint on the inside there, as you can see from the camera shot, which is exactly what the car in front was doing. Luca Filippi was just right. Adam Carroll just trying to take every millimetre out of the road that he could, Gareth, to close him down. And unfortunately, that's a podium gone west, which he could well have done with, I think, at this stage of the season. Yeah,
if he could have actually kept that going in the straight line rather than just snagging the barrier, he would have got away with it, because De Grassi's 3 or 4 seconds behind him. Gather it all up and carry on.
Yeah, and he might easily have repassed him as well, because De Grassi doesn't have the pace of the leaders. He's 2 seconds a lap slower than Lapierre, as the battle at the back goes on. There is Vitaly Petrov in the middle of this little group, and it's not quite at the back. This is in fact the bottom of the top 8. So this is ostensibly for pole. Petrov was 8th. Chandok is now. Ooh, as they go by a very slow iSport car?
Possibly. trying to pick his pace in the traffic for his fastest lap attack, I think was...
So Chandok in 8th, Tung now in 9th, Petrov down to 10th.
In fact, that was Zuber. He's been in the pits again, Zuber.
Yeah,
so
new set of tyres.
New set of tyres, yeah.
Yes, trying to take the fastest lap point back off Timo Glock.
Yeah, that's what teammates are for. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, well, you know, he didn't manage to bounce him out at the start, so you got to do well. Either that, or just trying to hone the setup to perfection so that he can race from the middle of nowhere up into the points tomorrow. Now then. That's only his second pit stop. Did he not? Was his first pit drive-through?
Actually, very good point. Yeah, you're right.
His first pit stop wasn't the stop; it was the drive-through, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, in fact, that was his pit stop. Yellow. That was Vitaly Petrov on the lock stops there. A big old slide going. Now, Lucas de Grassi, to his credit, has managed to get on top of whatever the problem was with the car and hang on in a decent enough position where he ends up on the podium as a result of Adam Carroll going off, but he hasn't exactly looked like a race winner from the start here, has he?
That's kind of been the story of his season, that, isn't it? You know, just sort of keep plugging away and pick up some good points whilst everybody else throws it at the wall.
Meanwhile, Nicolas Lapierre with a comfortable margin. Luca Filippi's not going to catch him from 3.5 seconds back unless the Frenchman does something wrong.
Well, poor old Nicolas Lapierre, I mean, we've seen him a couple of times this year doing very, very well. Magny Curie was leading the sprint race and had brake failure. Silverstone, he was in a podium position, I believe, and the upright broke on the car, pitched him into the wall. So it's not over till it's over. I'm sure he's well aware of that.
Javi Villa in 4th. Mike Conway in 5th. Where did Villa qualify? Just remind ourselves about that. He was quite sharp.
Yeah, 14th.
Yeah, 14th.
Yeah, don't forget quite a few cars didn't make the first lap. So,
however, you can't argue with that much, can you? 14th to 4th.
Block for a new set of tyres, probably.
Yeah,
just to defend his fastest lap.
So Javi Villa certainly made the best use of being out front when he could and running in clean air when he could. No pressure on the iSport boys here at all, but they will do as quick a change as they possibly can just to keep themselves sharp.
There's a scrub set going on. It's interesting to see if he can keep hold of that with his teammate out there, who was also very quick in qualifying yesterday. Be ironic, wouldn't it, if he lost it to his teammate?
Yeah, that would be a little bit inexcusable of the team, actually. There are some things that you can let them race wheel to wheel, but on the other hand, when the only chance of the championship leader gaining a point is for fastest lap, you really want to say to his teammate, look, I don't care what you do, but do not take the fastest lap.
Just go out and tool around.
Yeah. If you want to, let's do some testing, let's get the car set up to perfection, because God knows you're both going to need it tomorrow. But, try something. Let's make some changes and try it on the car. And oh dear. Now, there's the big runoff area coming back into its own. All the way up the hill. I tell you what, if that was a gravel trap, that would have been a big old accident, but... that
was the exit of Stavelo, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Complete mess of that. And there is a nasty bump on the rod on the apex at Stavelo. If you hit it wrong, it can sort of pitch the car sideways, and that can happen. The old days, you end up in the gravel. As you said, now that's gone. You end up running wide on the tarmac.
Well, that's why, even though people complain about there being so much tarmac out there and it doesn't look like the 60s, well, thank God.
Yes.
But on the other hand, it does, it makes races survivable for cars, and that's got to be a good thing. The more cars there are out there, the more chance there is of somebody racing somebody else and overtaking somebody else. Well, there's Zaug's teammate, Senna. He didn't have quite enough runoff area when he went off. But again, if that gravel trap at Pouhon, or where he went off at the beginning of it, if that was the left after Rivage, which doesn't seem to have a name anymore, if that had been tarmac, he would have still been in the race.
Yeah, in fact, that's exactly where Andy Zuber went off yesterday in qualifying and ripped a corner off.
But I mean, ditto, I suppose you could say with Adam Carroll, where he went off, if the inside there was just tarmac or concrete, he would still have been in, because there would have been enough grip to stop the car before it skated into the wall. But I suppose you can't have just acres and acres of tarmac everywhere. Still continuing to battle down towards the back. Tahinchi, Rodriguez, Garcia. And again, Iceport cars pulling over, stopping, waving everybody by, climbing back in, doing up the seatbelts, firing the engine and driving on in a most gentlemanly manner. Almost like he's towing a caravan, isn't it, actually, sort of waving people by. So having scared himself, Whitler, Zaug here battling with Marcus Niemöller, no, Christian Bakkerud. Yeah, Niemöller went by. And starting the long climb up to the end of the lap. Bakkerud's right there. Now he's just got to be brave and stick it up on the inside and sit there and sit there. And has he got enough of an overlap? He hasn't. Through Blanchimont and up towards the braking area. Well, again, now you see these guys do get a chance to straighten the wheel before they have to stand on the brakes, and there's no doubt that Formula One cars will. So maybe it will produce an overtake or two in Grand Prix racing.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a step forward from what was there before.
Yeah, definitely.
A pretty good job of designing that layout, and also it's very smooth as well, so it's pretty comfortable.
If you have to have them, and I think we accept that you have to have them, otherwise they arrive head on to the wall at La Source at 209. Lap 24 of 26 at Spa-Francorchamps, race being led by Nicolas Lapierre from Luca Filippi, and championship contender Lucas de Grassi in third. Christian Bakkerud trying desperately under braking to get around the outside of Adrian Zaug for 13th place. Didn't quite manage it at the top of the hill, but the Dane looking considerably more racy and aggressive than he's been able to in the last few years, through the season actually, in the last few races. Timo Glock still with the fastest
that's
lap.
Quick. 58.9, that's staggeringly quick. I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm pretty sure that's fairly safe.
Well, relatively fresh tyres and only 3 or 4 laps of fuel left on board, so in the best position. I mean, that's about a qualifying setup, isn't it? Yes, I was just going to have a look at that as well. 56.88 towards pole, but in fact 57.2 for Glock, so he can go quick. Room there to get it wrong if you have to. Roldan Rodriguez battling with his teammate, Bakkerud's teammate, Andy Suchek. In fact, that's Sandy Negrão. Suchek has gone by, as we see a replay of Bakkerud making up a place. So Dave Price won't have known where to look. Both his drivers made up a place on the same lap. And that puts Suchek into 6th place ahead of Sandy Negrão at the moment, and Bakkerud into 13th place ahead of Adrian Zaug. And Suchek pulling away as well. That's interesting. Yellow flag still being waved down the hill there. Who's pulled off? Who's that on the right-hand side? Don't know.
There's no change in the top 6.
No, none at all. And Timo Glock still with the fastest lap of the race.
He's done another one, 58.5.
As Nicolas Lapierre comes to complete lap 25.
Now, Glock was on the grid at the start, wasn't he? So he will get these times. He actually got wheeled off the grid because he stalled. But I'm pretty sure that counts as starting on the grid.
Yes.
Because if you start from the pit, you can't qualify to get fastest lap.
No, he didn't start from the pit lane, did he? So that works. Last lap then for Nicolas Lapierre, 5 seconds ahead of Luca Filippi. And showing all his qualifying promise here. Has led almost from the start through the pit stops. He went in quite early and so wasn't ahead all the way, but may as well have been. He hasn't really been that seriously challenged apart from the run up to the first corner. Luca Filippi second, from second on the grid. It's all looking pretty much predictable, really, isn't it? Lucas de Grassi third from 4th on the grid. We've lost Bruno Senna. And Sandy Negrão, has he run out of fuel? Or has he run into a problem? I wondered actually when Suchek just left him so comprehensively, like he's run out of fuel. Or the engine or the gearbox is packed up. Yeah, no, it's something absolutely fundamental. It's not just a bit of a handling problem, is it? It's something very fundamental. Maybe it's a gearbox issue.
Yeah, it's difficult to sort of guess. Like, I remember once running out of fuel, or I thought it was running out of fuel in Barcelona. In F3000, in fact it wasn't, the fuel pump had broken on the last lap, but because it's the last lap, because it felt like the fuel had run out, you just assume
the fuel had
the mechanics had made a mistake.
Yeah, the engine had run out of fuel.
The fuel was
because
there,
the fuel pump wasn't working.
Yeah,
exactly. No amount of weaving and sloshing. Oh, I bet your language was pretty choice by the time you'd walk back in after that, fuming. And
I have
then
to apologise when I
yeah, 2.5 days later when they get back to the factory and find out that it's a Duff fuel pump. Yeah, absolutely.
Grovelling apology from me, I'm afraid.
Nicolas Lapierre out of Blanchimont for the final time and up towards the bus stop, and when he exits the bus stop chicane for the last time here at Spa, he will see the checkered flag. Victory for Nicolas Lapierre, and a well-taken victory as well. Started at the front and was the fastest man out there realistically in terms of the race. Creeps across the line, will make the gap look very much smaller to Luca Filippi, who's second. De Grassi third, just ahead of Javi Villa. Jean-Paul Driot, well, when he's happy, he is a very happy man. But Villa very close indeed to De Grassi at the end, just over half a second behind. Top four very close together. Conway in fifth. Andy Suchek will be in sixth position. And Timo Glock right at the back, still going. He's 17th, still looking for the fastest lap of the race. Mike Conway has finished. Andy Suchek is 6th. Karen Chunduk 7th. Pole position for tomorrow goes to Ho Pin Tung. Vitaly Petrov will start 9th, and from 9th and below, that's how they will start tomorrow's race, how they finish today. Top 8 in race 1 reversed for the sprint race. So Petrov 9th, Sebastian Buemi 10th, Markus Niemöller 11th.
Glock's still pushing very hard, isn't he?
He really is, isn't he?
Really, you know, he's got fastest lap by a country mile. The race is over.
Yeah, but it's for him, isn't it? It's for him, though.
Yeah, but it's just an unnecessary risk.
They can break and repair a tire, but you know they are used to it now.
The last 2 weekends they've done all-nighters, yeah. So.
Mind you, BCN might have to rent the tub back if they wreck a car. Although Tung's managed to keep it on the island, and so has Niemöller, so they're all right. Yes, iSports have now stopped popping next door to BCN to borrow a cup of sugar. They've actually bought the cup of sugar in the form of BCN's spare chassis that they rebuilt. In fact, they've probably done more setup work on it than BCN have over the season. Look at that. Dave Price Mechanics, very happy indeed, the DPR boys. And there, I sense, is Sandy Negrão, who is not at all happy. His car failing under him with just a lap left to go at Spa. P2. A lot of drivers left to walk back in here at Spa. There's one, Adam Carroll. Apart from anything else, they're going to have to turn the car around when they put it on the flatbed, and he'll get a lift back in. Waves to the race winner, Nicolas Lapierre.
Yeah, it's tough to criticise Carroll for that, isn't it? He was pushing very, very hard to catch Filippi. He's come into the team, you know, late in the season and turned the car around, as you just referred to. He's done a fantastic job of taking a team that were right at the back or struggling in midfield and dragged them to the front. So mistakes do happen, and it's very hard to criticise the guy for that.
Well, it shows, doesn't it, how a number of teams have managed to remain at the top of the tree. Dams with Jean-Paul Driot, you think of David Sears' Supernova outfit, you think, of course, of Arden as well, and more recently ART, is by having enough of a successful engineering base to attract good drivers who've got a budget, and maybe enough of a budget that you can then start to attract sponsors off your own back. And once you can do that, once you've got, in the way that Jackie Stewart also used to run the Paul Stewart racing team, attract a raft of sponsors, then you can go out and shop for the good drivers, the drivers that are likely to be championship contenders, the good engineers that are going to set up a championship contenders car. And it's a self-fulfilling sort of routine, isn't it? If you can give yourself a strong financial base, then you don't have to take the biggest checkbook. You can take what you would choose to be as the best talent for the team.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it boils down to money. Unfortunately, that's the way it works. But exactly that. If you can get yourself in a position with a good title sponsor for the team who are paying all or the vast majority of the budget, you can have your pick and choice of the drivers. It makes a big difference, and ART certainly have done that. They've really, each year they say, yeah, we'll have you and you, of the sort of huge queue that's formed outside their door. And it's a luxury you can have, and I think that's what the GP2 series is working towards. They want teams to be self-financing where possible. Yeah,
and I think that largely with the number of teams that are coming in, I think that's going to be the case. Well, Nicolas Lapierre delighted with that, as well he should be, controlled the race at his own pace from the front, which is exactly what he needed to do. Luca Filippi alongside him in second place. Lucas de Grassi in third. Well, a degree of relief as well as gratification for him, I would think, because at one stage it looked like he wasn't going to finish anywhere close to the podium, but he managed to get on top of whatever it was that ailed the car straight after the pit stops. And it obviously was more of a drivability than a mechanical problem, and kept himself, well, in the running, so that when Adam Carroll's mistake came, he found himself back in third position. Fourth wouldn't have been a nightmare, but third is a little bit better. Allows him to close the gap. Come on, you do the maths. He was 11 points behind Timo Glock.
Yeah, well, with Timo taking fastest lap, it means they're going to tomorrow with de Grassi 5 points behind.
And that is manageable, isn't it? I mean, that's manageable for tomorrow, because Glock's not likely to score, and if Lucas keeps himself out of trouble at the first corner, he is. And then, of course, that then leaves Valencia.
So six points behind. I'll take that back. It's 6 points behind, but even so, it's manageable, as you said. I think for the neutral, you know, that's good, because I think it means highly unlikely it'll get settled tomorrow. It means we'll go to the last races at Valencia in a couple of weeks' time with it all to play for, which is great.
Absolutely right, and that's exactly what the championship needs and wants, and really, I mean, I think it's what everybody would like to see as well. That it's not such a runaway romp for somebody that that there's no, you know, interest remaining after mid-season.
No, I mean, so far GP2's managed it each year, isn't it? All the 3 years. If it goes down to the wire this year, that'll be 3 years in 3, where it goes to the last races, and that's what we want. Yeah,
definitely. Well, the post-race weigh-in, just to make sure that nobody's using ultra-lightweight helmets or anything like that. A hand system filled with helium, or well, I can't imagine what else you could be doing. But getting ready to go out onto the podium. And of course, like everything else in a Grand Prix weekend, everything timed to the nanosecond. So they will be held and then ushered out at exactly the right moment. And for tomorrow, Ho Pin Tung and Karen Chundok on the front row, Andy Suchek and Mike Conway on row 2, Javi Villa and Lucas de Grassi on row 3, and Luca Filippi and today's race winner Nicolas Lapierre on row 4 of the grid. So we might have a very entertaining battle for the lead at the start, I think, and we could yet get another first-time winner. Tung, Chandok, Suchek, Conway. Who do you fancy out of those 4?
I would have thought Conway, to be honest with you, provided he can stay out of trouble.
Of course, the way his luck's going, that's a non-starter.
He's like a magnet for it, isn't he?
And I haven't even talked to him this year. You know, there's got to be some other reason for it. I think, actually, that's exactly what his career would need right now, would be to be able to somehow get himself into a race 2 win at Spa. That would just really give him the boost for the final weekend. And as the race winner and the second and third place men come out onto the podium, actually talking about self-financing teams. One of those that the words to his national anthem, but is proud to sing them as well. How many times have you seen a driver singing on the podium? I can't think the last time.
No. That's very true. No, he's clearly worked hard for that and deserves it. I mean, came out of nowhere, to be fair. He scored, 2 points in the last 16 races or something? So where on earth that performance came from, who knows? But very, very good drive.
Yeah, absolutely so. Luca Filippi in second place will be relatively happy with that. I'm sure he thought perhaps at the start that he was going to be able to get one over on Lapierre, but not to be. Nicolas Lapierre from row 2 of the grid takes third place. And the only absentee at the beginning was Bruno Senna. Supernova boss David Sears applauding his man, second place, Luca Filippi. So, Dams and Supernova back at the top. You know, days gone by. Yeah, that takes us back a while, doesn't it?
Into the 90s,
when some of us were really quite young, and I was watching still. So there you go. And of course, Arden third on the grid as well. The great teams of the Formula 3000, late Formula 3000 era. But there's our race winner today, Nicolas Lapierre. Very happy with his day's work. So that's it from Spa-Francorchamps for GP2 for the day. Sunday brings the sprint race. Sunday morning's sprint race will see our top 8 in reverse order, and 6 points between the top 2.